Welcome, writers, readers, and friends to the Authors Talking Bookish podcast. I'm Donna Norman Carbone, author of All That Is Sacred.
And I'm Hope Gibbs, author of Where the Grass Grows Blue.
We're two debut writers traditionally published by a small publishing house, bringing to you all the experiences that we as authors learn the hard way, so you don't have to.
We'll give you insights from the inception of a book idea to publication and beyond. And along the way, we'll share our love of books from the writer's perspective.
Welcome back, friends. This is episode 47, and we're calling it Pen to Page, How Journaling Can Fuel Storytelling. I'm Donna Carbone, and I'm joined by Hope Gibbs. Hi, Hope. How are you?
I am great, Donna. How are you?
I am well. I am absolutely well. Getting close to the end of school, so I'm very excited about that. I have another week to go.
Yeah.
And then it's summer break for me.
Summer break. I love that. My summer break is my kids come back. So I've got a couple at the house now. So Ansley has just finished her junior year, and I have another college graduate. I just keep racking up my little college graduates. He graduated from Georgia in May, and so it's been a very busy May, and it's been an exciting May.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. So what's going on in your world? Do you have a lot of book events right now?
I do. I actually have a book event coming up next weekend, the Cheshire Strawberry Festival, which I do every year since my debut came out. And I just love it because I see so many of my old students and, just people from around town. It's a lot of fun. I'm easing up just a little bit over the summer because I need some writing time. I'm looking forward to getting away at the end of the month. And can't wait to be on my boat.
Are you going to the Cape? Is that your plan?
You know what? I am going to the Cape for a weekend, but this summer we're going to Aruba. We're changing it up a little bit. I've never been to Aruba, so I'm excited for that.
I went to Aruba last year on a 50th birthday trip because, I'm in that age where the young folks, they're turning 50. I've already done that. But it is beautiful down there. But it is really close to South America. I did not realize how far south it was.
Yeah. I'm excited. I've never been. So we're going with some friends, and I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some books.
Sure.
So this is a little bit different because Donna and I are both reading the same book, and we'll tell you why. So first off, Donna, what are you reading?
So The Handmaid's Tale. This is actually probably like the fourth time that I've read it. I like to read books at different stages in my life because I feel like they hit differently. What about you, Hope?
Well, so I am also reading The Handmaid's Tale. So I think I read it years ago and it didn't really register. And so when I reread it, and I read it in one day because I couldn't put it down, it is speaking to me in a different way. As a woman in my mid-50s, I stumbled across The Handmaid's Tale, and I told you the story back in the early 90s because it was a movie. It has Robert Duvall in it, Faye Dunaway. And so when I watched a couple of the scenes, I was like, this is not for me. And then I think it was 2016, 2017, the Hulu series came out. Yeah. And so that brought me to start watching it again. But then we dropped Hulu. And so we now have it back. So I'm now out playing catch up. But reading the book, seeing the movie, and the miniseries, or not miniseries, the TV series, I am beyond hooked. I cannot believe that Margaret Atwood wrote this book in 1985. I think it is fascinating, so much so that our next episode is going to be all about. Do you want to say, Donna? We're going to talk about it as a book. Yeah. We're going to talk about it as the adaptations. And also the sequel, the book that was written, I think it was in 2020, The Testaments. I just started that. But it's a fascinating read. It's very timely, but it's such a well-written book.
Right. Well, you know what? I read it for the first time when I was in college, and I graduated the year that it came out. I graduated from high school the year that it came out. But I read it for the first time in college, and I really liked it a lot. But what I loved about it were the biblical allusions.
Mhm.
I was taking some classes at school, like the Bible is literature. And so I was fascinated with all of those things. And, fast forward all these years later, I teach an AP class, and I think it's just so well written. But now I'm really interested in the woman's part of it.
Mhm.
So it's interesting the way that the lens that you read something through changes over time. And so that's something I want to explore in our next episode.
Well, I'm very excited about that episode, but
Yeah,
I'm
me too.
excited about this episode. So, Donna, what are
Yeah.
we talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about journaling and how you really could use journaling in many different ways. Whether you're a beginning writer to, start brainstorming ideas, or whether you're a seasoned writer, to organize your thoughts, to follow your writing journey. So we're going to give you some tips. And at the end of the episode, we'll also talk about a free download that we have for you.
So, this is a little bit for me. I've talked on this show about I didn't start out to write a book. I started a journal,
Mm,
which is a little bit different. But if it wasn't for that experience, I would not have started creating these characters.
yeah.
And that's basically what we're going to talk about. And one of the first steps, because of how to journal fuels storytelling, it helps with brainstorming. It allows you, like what I was doing with my personal journey, then ended up being a creative journey. It was ideas and themes and the what if scenarios, and without the pressure.
Yeah.
Donna, how do you do this?
I always use my journal to brainstorm ideas. In fact, I use my journal for many different purposes. Like one journal, it's my bullet journal. Um, and whenever I have an idea, I'll jot down words on the page that have to do with that idea, which inevitably lead to other ideas that kind of spring from that. Most recently, I had a dream, and in my dream, a whole story idea came to me. And so I spoke it in the audio app on my phone, like in the middle of the night. My husband will wake up sometimes and he's like, "What are you doing?"
Mhm.
And so the first thing that I had to do when I woke up in the morning is write it all down because I didn't want to forget it. And I actually pushed aside a story that I was working on to start working on this one. And so I really just use it as fuel for ideas as
Mhm.
they come to me. And I will do stream of consciousness writing. I know that we've talked about that before, but if listeners don't know what that is, it's really just kind of sitting down and writing whatever ideas come into your mind in a very random fashion, the way that they do. And I can always take out little nuggets of that to start creating a story.
Yeah. And a journal doesn't necessarily have to be pen and paper. I keep everything. I keep mine on my computer, and like you said, with voice notes, and
Yeah.
also just notes on my iPhone, because you never know when something is going to hit you. And the book I'm working on right now, I've got a lot of different characters, and so if I come up with something that would be important to their arc of the story, I pull out my phone, and, because sometimes, you never know where you're going to be when an idea strikes. And
Right.
then that way it's all on my Apple system, and that way I can pull it from different places. So again, it doesn't have to be pen and paper, but some people actually are more creative writing by hand. Do you find
Right.
that you're more creative by doing that? Because for me, it's all about my fingertips. It's my keyboard.
Yeah, I definitely am more creative writing by hand. And you mentioned I brought one of my journals. And you mentioned the characters, and I create character maps in my journal. And I'll just show you for those of you who are watching on YouTube. Um, so this is the book that I just finished. And what I did was I just created characters and sort of visually kind of put them with the characters that they're related to, and did the relationships. Sometimes it looks like a spider web at the end. So yeah, I am definitely a visual person, and writing it out is definitely more creative for me.
Yeah. So let's talk about another step that it can help develop characters more deeply.
Yeah.
It helps writing from the character's point of view, which that is a huge part of this. And you can just journal about them and you can reveal their inner lives, motivations, fears, and backstories. And you and I have talked so much about to create a character, you have to know their backstory. Even
Yeah.
if they're a minor character, you need to know a little bit about them other than their name. And, so that is another part of this. And it helped me with my journal. I would have dates, and that
Mhm.
also kept me straight on my own timeline.
Yeah.
Talk about, do you do something similar?
Yeah, I mean, I will make like lists, and then those lists I will take to I use Scrivener when I'm drafting. So those lists I'll take to Scrivener and recreate them in Scrivener and add to them in Scrivener in my character bios.
Real quick, Donna, because I don't write that way. I'm
Mhm.
a Word doc person. I think that's a really important thing for people who are out there thinking about writing. They're in the middle of writing. Tell them
Mm.
about this because
About Scrivener?
a lot of writers use it.
Yeah, so Scrivener is a program that you have to buy a license for. It's
Mhm.
not terribly expensive though. And it's a one-time license, and it is a program that will compile different kinds of books that you will publish. So if you are a screenwriter and writing a screenplay, it will format the screenplay for you.
Mhm.
It'll format a novel. It'll format a book of poetry for you. And so it'll compile it. It gives you one thing that I really love during the drafting phase, because once I get through a full draft, I will move it to a Google Doc when it's complete. But one thing that I really like is that each scene that you write, it'll make like a little note card, and you can just take a look at the bulletin board and just see all the note cards to see how things fit. And you could actually move them around if you want to change the order of scenes. And it has templates for character bios and templates for settings and places for you to put research links. It's really it's like a digital notebook of
Mhm.
everything that you could use to create a novel.
Yeah, I think we could actually do an episode on that because
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous about it, but everyone I that uses it, they rave about it. And I
Yeah.
think it would take a lot. That would be very helpful because I have all these side notes that would actually do for me.
Yeah, and you could do side notes for every scene. You can also take a picture of how you envision the character and put it next to that scene so you're looking at it.
Yeah.
It's it's amazing. We could do a how-to and I can teach you how to use it too.
I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's go back to journaling real quick. And
Okay.
another thing about how this can help you, it can overcome something that I struggle with, writer's block. Journaling can help remove that need for perfection because I sometimes want to edit as I go.
Mm,
And all I have is a really good sentence instead of a full chapter.
yeah.
So, talk about this. Do you ever experience writer's block at all?
You know, I don't really. However, I ebb and flow with
Yeah.
my sort of writing routine. So is that writer's block? I don't know. Or is that my brain just kind of taking a break from writing fiction?
Yeah.
One thing that I do in this vein with my journaling is that I will write about other things. I will abandon my story and write about an incident in my personal life or an observation I make. I'm constantly people watching or eavesdropping, and I'll write those kinds of things. And I often go back to my journals as inspiration as I'm writing.
Yeah.
So, in that way, I don't know, maybe it is writer's block. I don't ever feel like, oh my God, I can't write. I'm always writing something.
Yes.
Sometimes I deviate from fiction though.
Yeah, I'm always writing something, but sometimes getting back into that
Yeah.
creative mode is a little bit harder. And I love what you said about the observations because people will say things and I don't want to forget them. And I pull out my computer if it's with me or my notes
Yeah.
and I write it down because it maybe you won't use it verbatim, but
Yeah.
it gives you a hint like, oh, I could base a character off of just that one one
Right.
thing. I based a character years ago when I was a little girl and I was in church, and in my book, Where the Grass Grows Blue, there is this old spinster lady who is kind of like a little she's kind of a tart to my main
Mhm.
character, and she says something to Penny. She says, "Remember, Penny, who baptized Jesus? It was John the Baptist, not John the Methodist."
Mm.
And a woman had said that to me years ago, and I literally based an entire character on that one observation. Now, did
Yeah.
I journal that? No, I journaled it here. But
Yeah.
I love that you can take what someone says, and that can be the basis of maybe a scene or even a character.
Yeah. Oftentimes, my husband and I are out to dinner, and I'm like listening to what's going on in the booth behind us
Yeah.
and listening to him. He's like, Donna, refocus. Are you writing right now?
It's so funny. My husband is the same way. He doesn't understand that I can listen to him, have the
Yeah.
TV on, and I can hear other people's conversations. I think
Yeah.
it's just maybe it's a female brain that we can absorb
Yeah.
all kinds of different information because he is very much, if he's watching TV, you ask him a question, he's like, "What? Huh? What?"
Yeah.
So,
I think women are great multitaskers.
I think we are too. Okay, so let's
Mhm.
keep going.
Yep.
Another thing about journaling, it can keep you on track.
Right.
It can help you with your process, with breakthroughs, and it can also keep you motivated to see just how far you've come.
Yeah. Another sample that I'm going to show you is I do writing stats in every journal that I have. And so I will, I'll write down in them, I don't know, um, that I had an editing day. And I also emailed my publisher to ask my book to be put in KU. So I'll kind of track the different things that I do, whether it's, writing 1,000 words or sending a query letter out. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of keeps me in check. Like I always know what I'm doing and what I need to do next.
But isn't it fascinating also to go back and
Oh,
read
yeah.
where you were 2 years ago, 4
Yeah.
years ago? And that can also be a boost to say, like, if you're struggling with,
Mm.
your manuscript, just to say, "Look, I've done this before.
Yeah.
Look how far I've come. Look at all the things that I have learned." And that journal is almost like a time capsule
Yeah.
into your career.
Mhm. Another thing that is helpful about that is I know that for my launch plan with my debut novel, I went back to my launch plan. I took a
Mhm.
look at, what I did that worked and what I did that was a dead end. And that helped inform me for my second novel that came out. So, in that way, it's good to record those things as well, whether it's in a journal or a document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just going through, I don't care if it's your first book launch or your 10th book launch. Book launches it's a very crazy time. You have so
Mhm.
many things that are coming up. And by going back to revisit your journal, okay, I need to reach out. This is the time where I need to get my arcs out. This is the time that I
Mhm.
need to reach out if I'm going to do Susie approved books. This is the time, so it can serve as not just as nostalgia, it can actually be a working document that can
Yeah.
help you.
Yeah, I actually did a timeline when I did my debut novel and wrote the date and sort of what task I did. And so I went back to that timeline, just as you were saying, time to reach out to Susie
Yeah.
approved books. Um, so the secretary at my school used to call them teasers. And so I use them as teasers to like tease me. No, ticklers. That's what
Yeah.
it was. Use it to tickle me like, okay, time to do this. I
Time to do
liked
it.
that. Yeah.
Okay, so the final step that we're going to talk about is that it can also inspire an authentic dialogue and voice.
Yeah.
Journaling in different voices, your characters, or maybe your narrator, or even a fictional letter, which I actually used in my book. It
Mhm.
can help you nail down tone,
Mhm.
dialect, and authentic dialogue.
Yeah.
Talk about how that helps you.
Yeah, I will do that sometimes, especially if I'm struggling with a conversation between two characters. I will journal about it. Um, for my first book, I was really trying to nail the voices of my five female characters. And so I wrote letters from one to another. And that also, even though, like, the reason that I did it was to help me with their voice, what came out of it was kind of the attitude that they had toward each other
Mhm.
and some of the hangups that they had from their past. So that worked out really well.
Yeah, I did, because I'm more electronic with the way I was doing it. I was writing emails and text back and forth to characters,
Oh, that's
that
really
are
cool.
not even going to make it into the book.
Right.
Maybe I reference it, especially in my second book,
Yeah.
because it's a group of women, and so how do we communicate nowadays is a lot through text.
Mhm.
And I'm a terrible texter, as you know, but, texting has helped me with my kind of working out their voices, because if you have multiple characters, you have to distinguish them in a
Mhm.
conversation and in dialogue. So you pick up on little quirks, and
Yeah.
not just accents, but just the way that they speak,
Yeah. Yeah. The kinds of vocabulary that they use, the way they form their sentences.
and the way, for me, how they text, because I have
Yeah.
friends that text emoji, emoji, emoji. I rarely put an emoji in there. I try,
Yeah.
or friends who just send you just little funny things they find on Instagram, and so I've used my characters like through their social media and through that way, and I find that I'm getting to know them that way.
Yeah. I always say that writing for me is my way of understanding the world, and I often don't know what I think until I write about it.
Huh.
And so I think in that way, journaling helps me as well. So when I am, trying to figure something out with a book, I'll just write, and one thought leads to another thought. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that.
And
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 then,
your original thought probably
yeah,
isn't what's going to be used. It's probably the
right.
thought that comes after that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
well, Donna, we are going to finish up this episode, and as
Okay.
our teacher, although it's almost summer break, tell us,
Yeah.
what is our do now?
Well, on our show notes, you're going to find some journaling sources that include Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg, Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott, Write for Your Life by Anna Quinlan, which is a lot about letter writing, and The Playful Ways to Serious Writing by Roberta Allen. So, our suggestion is that you check out these sources because they have wonderful journal prompts for storytelling,
Mhm.
and choose a few of these. We also created a free download of journal prompts for you. So if you go to our website, you can get a link to those free downloads. And we would love for you to do that at www.authorstalkingbookish.com.
Yes, and you can find us, everyone, on Instagram. Please follow us over there, and you can see us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. And Donna, real quick, we already talked about this, but remind
Yeah.
us about our next episode.
So we are going to break down The Handmaid's Tale and provide you with lessons for writers based on the reading and the adaptations. And I can't wait for that episode.
Again, I devoured that book. I will have the testaments read, within a day.
Yeah.
Again, because I'm also fascinated, because that's told from three different POVs. In The Handmaid's Tale, it is a first person POV, but this one is
Yeah.
three. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it, and great to see you again, Donna. And thank you,
Yeah. Good
everyone,
to
for
see you too.
joining us.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Until next time.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Hope Gibbs.
And I'm Donna Norman Carbone. It's time for you to get to work.
We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks with another tip from your author friends.